Fairview, North Carolina, a town where neighbors wave, doors are left unlocked, and high school friendships are meant to last a lifetime. But on the night of August 10th, something happened that no one in this quiet community was prepared for. A 16-year-old girl vanished without a trace, and the one person who should have had all the answers, she was leading the search. Her name was Maya Richardson. She was bright, full of life, and had dreams bigger than this small town could contain. But one summer night, those dreams were ripped away. Calls to her phone went unanswered, her room was left untouched, and her family's worst nightmare had begun. At first, panic spread through Fairview like wildfire. Where could a 16-year-old girl go in a town where everyone knows everyone? She wasn't the type to run away, and there was no sign of a struggle. Her mother's first call was to Simone, Maya's best friend since childhood. And Simone's response? "She left my house around 10:30. I thought she was home by now." As the hours stretched into days, the community rallied behind Simone. She was everywhere, posting flyers, organizing searches, and crying on the evening news. She begged for Maya's safe return. She held hands with Maya's mother and whispered promises that they would find her. But there was one problem. The story Simone told, it wasn't lining up. The town of Fairview had no idea that while they searched for Maya, the truth was sitting right in front of them, and when that truth finally came out, it would shake the community to its core. Stay with us as we uncover the story of deception, jealousy, and the ultimate betrayal. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and brace yourself, because nothing about this case is what it seems. Fairview, North Carolina, a town that felt like the kind of place where nothing bad ever happened. It was a community where families had known each other for generations, where neighbors brought over fresh-baked pies just because, and where kids grew up side by side, forming friendships that felt unbreakable. A place of trust, routine, and comfort. The streets were lined with towering oak trees, their branches swaying gently over houses with neatly trimmed lawns. On summer evenings, the scent of backyard barbecues filled the air, and the sound of children laughing carried through the neighborhoods. Life here was simple and safe. That was the belief, at least. But all it took was one night, one moment, to remind everyone that no place, not even Fairview, was as safe as it seemed. Maya Richardson was the kind of teenager parents felt lucky to have. 16 years old, sharp-minded, ambitious, and always ready with a smile. She had an energy about her that made people feel good just by being around her. Teachers adored her, friends trusted her. Her family, her mother Denise, and her older brother Malcolm loved her beyond words. Maya had big dreams. She wanted to be a journalist, and she wasn't the type to keep those dreams to herself. She carried a notebook everywhere, jotting down thoughts, ideas, and anything that caught her attention. She imagined herself breaking important stories, standing in front of cameras and reporting to the world. Her future felt bright, inevitable even. Her best friend, Simone Harris, had been by her side for as long as anyone could remember. Their friendship had started in kindergarten, two little girls who clicked instantly. They spent almost every day together, swapping secrets, making silly videos, and planning their futures. Maya wanted to be a journalist, Simone wanted to be famous. How? She wasn't sure. She just knew she was meant to be seen. Simone was the kind of person who could take over a room without trying. She had a confidence about her. A way of making people laugh, a presence that made her impossible to ignore. If there was a party, Simone was in the center of it. If there was a joke being told, Simone was the loudest voice in the room. She had charm, no doubt about it, but those who knew her well also knew something else. She didn't like feeling overlooked. For years, Maya and Simone had been inseparable. They had their fair share of fights, sure, but what best friends didn't? Theirs always blew over quickly, or at least, that's what people thought. As they got older, things began to shift. Maya started excelling in school, getting attention for her academic achievements, her writing, and her bright future. Teachers praised her, classmates admired her drive. It was subtle at first, but it was there. Maya was beginning to stand out. And Simone? She was used to being the one in the spotlight. She had never been good at sharing it. Their friendship became a cycle. Best friends one day, barely speaking the next. One moment, Simone was Maya's biggest supporter, cheering her on. The next, she was distant and cold, acting as if Maya had done something wrong without ever saying what. But Maya never questioned it too much. This was just how Simone was, she told herself. They always made up in the end. Fairview High School knew them as a pair. If you saw Maya, you saw Simone. If something happened to one of them, the other would be right there. So when Maya went missing, everyone turned to Simone first. And Simone was heartbroken. She was the one handing out flyers, leaving search parties, standing next to Maya's mother, and crying in front of news cameras. She told everyone she wouldn't stop looking until Maya was home. She made people believe her pain was real. But the thing about the truth is that it has a way of slipping through the cracks, no matter how tightly someone tries to hold it in place. Fairview had always felt predictable, untouched by the tragedies that seemed to happen in other towns. That belief shattered the moment Maya disappeared. The search for her consumed the entire community. Hundreds of volunteers combed through the woods, knocked on doors, and followed every possible lead. The local news covered the case endlessly, broadcasting her picture on every station. Her family pleaded for her safe return, her mother's voice cracking with desperation. And through it all, Simone was right there, crying, hugging Maya's family, telling reporters how much she missed her best friend. Everyone believed her. Why wouldn't they? She was Maya's closest friend, the person who knew her best. But then the questions started. The timeline didn't quite add up. The things Simone said didn't always match what other people remembered. Small details at first, easily brushed off as stress, as grief. But then, those small details turned into something more. It was only a matter of time before the truth started to unravel. Fairview had spent years believing it was a town where something like this couldn't happen. But the truth was, something had happened. And it had been right in front of them all along. August 10th was an ordinary summer evening, the kind where the air was thick with heat and the hum of cicadas filled the quiet streets of Fairview. Families sat on their porches, enjoying the last stretch of the season before school started again. Teenagers, free from the weight of assignments and early mornings, took advantage of the long nights, texting, laughing, and making plans. For Maya Richardson, that evening was supposed to be simple. A movie night at her best friend Simone's house, just like they had done countless times before. It was routine, familiar. There was no hesitation when she grabbed her phone, slipped on her sneakers, and told her mom she'd be back later. "Love you," she texted as she walked out the door. She never came back. At first, there was no reason to worry. Denise Richardson knew her daughter Maya wasn't the type to sneak off, and she always let her mom know if she was staying out later than expected. But by midnight, something felt off. Denise's messages had gone unread. The calls went straight to voicemail. She tried not to panic. Maybe Maya had fallen asleep at Simone's. Maybe her phone had died. Logical explanations, reasonable. But then Denise did something that no mother ever wanted to do. She called Simone, and that's when everything started to unravel. Simone picked up on the second ring, her voice calm, maybe a little groggy like she had been asleep. She told Denise that Maya had left her house around 10:30 p.m., saying she was heading home, alone. That one word, alone, sent a cold rush through Denise's body. Maya didn't walk alone at night, ever. It wasn't just a house rule, it was common sense. She was cautious, careful. If she had planned to leave at 10:30, she would have called her mom for a ride or asked her brother Malcolm to come get her. But she hadn't. And now she wasn't answering. Denise wasted no time. She grabbed her car keys and started driving the short route Maya would have taken home. The streets were empty, the town silent, no sign of her daughter. The walk from Simone's house to theirs was less than 10 minutes, a straight shot down two familiar roads. If Maya had left at 10:30, she should have been home before 10:40, but it was past midnight now. Something was wrong. Denise drove slower, scanning every sidewalk, every alley, every shadowy corner. Nothing. She called again. Voicemail. Another call. Voicemail. By 1 a.m., panic had fully set in. Denise tried Simone again. This time Simone's voice was different, more awake, more alert. She repeated what she had said before. Maya left at 10:30 and said she was heading home. That's all she knew. But there was something else. A hesitation. a slight crack in her voice, a pause that felt just a little too long. Denise didn't have time to think about it. She called Malcolm. Then she called the police. Officers arrived quickly, but at first there wasn't much they could do. Maya had only been missing for a few hours, and teenagers went off the radar all the time. Maybe she was with another friend, maybe she had stopped somewhere, maybe her phone had died and she just hadn't thought to check in. But Denise knew better. This wasn't like Maya. As the hours passed, that gut-wrenching feeling of dread only grew stronger. By morning, word had spread. Friends, family, neighbors, everyone started searching. Posters were printed and flyers were handed out. The local news picked up the story. A bright, ambitious 16-year-old girl had vanished in the middle of her neighborhood. And then there was Simone. She was front and center, devastated, desperate. She clung to Denise, sobbing into her shoulder. She organized search groups and pleaded on social media for Maya to come home, her posts filled with heart emojis and crying faces. She was everywhere. But there was something about the way she told the story, Maya left at 10:30, she was supposed to be home, that made people uneasy. Because the more they searched, the more the pieces didn't fit. No one had seen Maya walking that night. No security cameras caught her on the route home. No texts, no calls, nothing after she sent her mother that last message. And then came the biggest question of all. If Maya had left Simone's house at 10:30, why hadn't Simone called anyone when she realized she never made it home? Why did she wait until Denise called her first? And why, when detectives pressed her for more details, did she suddenly start changing her story? Fairview wasn't the kind of town where people went missing. It was the kind of place where neighbors knew each other by name, where kids rode their bikes to school, and where families left their doors unlocked at night. So when Maya Richardson vanished without a trace, the town felt like a punch to the gut. At first, there was hope. She had to be somewhere. Maybe she had gotten lost, maybe she had an accident, maybe, just maybe, she would walk through her front door any second now, laughing at all the fuss. But as the hours stretched into a full day, hope turned into fear. The search began almost immediately. Police officers, volunteers, friends, family, they all spread out, checking every street, every alley, every park. Flyers with Maya's face were plastered on telephone poles and storefronts. Her mother, Denise, made desperate pleas on the local news. And right beside her, holding her hand, crying into the cameras, was Simone Harris. She was everywhere, leading search teams, organizing vigils, handing out flyers with shaking hands. On social media, her posts were heartbreaking. "Maya, if you see this, please come home. I can't lose you." She sobbed in interviews, broke down in front of crowds, and clung to Maya's family as if she were one of them. But detectives had a job to do, and as they dug deeper, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. The first real break came 48 hours after Maya was reported missing. A search party combing a wooded area 2 miles from her home found something half buried in the dirt. A cell phone, scratched, screen cracked, but still intact. It was Maya's. Her family had been calling it non-stop, so why was it off? Who had left it there? And more importantly, how did it end up 2 miles away, when she was supposedly walking straight home? Detectives retrieved the phone, hoping for answers. But then, another discovery, one that sent a ripple through the entire investigation. A neighbor who lived just a few houses down from Simone's had security cameras on their porch. The footage from that night showed something that completely contradicted Simone's story. At exactly 10:45 p.m., her car was caught on camera. But she wasn't driving toward Maya's house. She was going in the opposite direction. Where was she going? And why did she never mention leaving? When detectives questioned her again, she stuck to her original story. Maya left at 10:30, she went home, and that was the last she saw of her. But the evidence was saying something else entirely. The pressure was mounting. Detectives obtained Maya's phone records, searching for any last messages, any calls, and any clues to where she might have gone. And then they found it. At 10:32 p.m., just 2 minutes after Simone claimed Maya left, Maya had sent one last message. It wasn't to her mother. It wasn't to her brother. It was to Sima. A simple, urgent text. Why are you lying?" That was the moment everything changed. The town that had once rallied around Simone, comforted her, and supported her, suddenly looked at her differently. The best friend who had cried the hardest, who had made herself the face of the search, was now at the center of something much darker. Detectives needed more. They needed a confession, a witness, a mistake, something that would crack the case wide open. And then they got exactly that. A classmate, someone who had known Maya and Simone for years, came forward with a chilling statement. The night before Maya disappeared, she had overheard an argument between the two, a heated, whispered fight in the school parking lot, and one sentence stood out. Simone's voice, low and furious, "If you tell anyone, you'll regret it." But tell me what? And what had Maya known that made her best friend turn on her? As investigators pressed harder, Simone's story began to shift. First, little details changed. Then, entire timelines. Then, a full collapse of her alibi. And finally, the truth. The truth that no one in Fairview was prepared for. Friendship is supposed to be built on trust, on laughter, on late-night talks and inside jokes. But sometimes, friendship masks something far more dangerous. As investigators peeled back the layers of Maya Richardson's life, they discovered something that sent shivers down their spines. At first glance, Maya and Simone were the definition of best friends, inseparable since childhood, always together, sharing secrets, dreams, and promises of a future where they would conquer the world side by side. But beneath that carefully curated image was something no one had seen before. Something no one wanted to believe. The deeper detectives looked, the more cracks they found in their perfect friendship. Maya had been making new friends. She had started hanging out with different people at school, spending more time with her journalism club, attending study sessions with classmates Simone barely knew, and, according to those closest to her, Simone didn't take it well. She wasn't just upset. She was angry. Maya's friends recalled subtle changes. How Simone would glare from across the room when Maya laughed with someone else. How she would interrupt conversations, pulling Maya away, and how she would make snide comments whenever Maya mentioned her new friends. At first, Maya brushed it off. They had been friends forever. Simone was just protective. She'd get over it. But then, things escalated. A classmate told detectives about an incident just a week before Maya disappeared, a lunchroom confrontation. It started small, Simone complaining that Maya had been ignoring her and spending too much time with other people. But when Maya tried to explain, tried to reassure her, Simone snapped. Witnesses heard the words clear as day. "You think you don't need me anymore? You'll regret this." Maya had laughed it off at the time, but now it didn't seem so harmless. Then detectives got their hands on Simone's phone. What they found would change the case forever. Hundreds of text messages, fights, accusations, long paragraphs sent late at night, filled with jealousy and desperation. Messages like, "You're ditching me for them. I see how you look at me now like I don't matter. If you think you can just walk away, you're wrong." And then, one message, sent 3 days before Maya disappeared. "You'll regret this." The same words Simone had screamed in the cafeteria. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't in the messages. It was in Simone's search history. Detectives traced her online activity in the weeks leading up to Maya's disappearance. What they found was terrifying. How to make someone disappear. Ways to erase phone records. How long does it take for a body to decompose? It was undeniable. This wasn't just an argument between friends. This wasn't just a falling out. This was something calculated. Detectives had the pieces. But there was still one question left unanswered. Where was Maya? And the answer was about to rock the entire town to its core. The search had gone on for days. Volunteers combed through the dense woods surrounding Fairview. Flyers covered every streetlight, every storefront. Maya's name echoed through megaphones as search teams called out for a response that never came. Her mother, Denise, barely slept. She paced by the phone, praying for a miracle, for Maya to walk through the door and laugh about some misunderstanding. But as the hours turned into days, hope began to wither, replaced by a gut-wrenching fear that no parent should ever have to feel. And then, on the 5th day, a discovery stopped the entire town in its tracks. A local man walking his dog near an abandoned lot caught sight of something unusual, a patch of earth, recently disturbed. Something about it made his stomach twist. He called the authorities, and within hours, detectives arrived with cadaver dogs. What they uncovered would send shockwaves through Fairview. Buried just 2 feet beneath the dirt, wrapped in the same hoodie she had worn the night she left home, was Maya Richardson. The news spread like wildfire. The bright, ambitious girl everyone loved had been found. But it wasn't the outcome anyone had prayed for. And the most unthinkable part? The person responsible had been standing at the forefront of the search effort, crying in front of cameras, handing out flyers, pretending to care. Detectives wasted no time. The evidence against her had been mounting, but this? This was the final piece, the one that sealed her fate. They showed up at her doorstep, sirens blaring, flashing lights reflected off her tear-streaked face. At first she played the part flawlessly, shock, denial, confusion. She asked questions she already knew the answers to. They found Maya? What happened to her? But the detectives weren't asking for her reaction. They were asking her to come with them. At the station, the interrogation began. For hours, Simone refused to break. She stuck to her story. Maya left her house that night. She had no idea what happened after that. But then they placed a photo in front of her. A photo of Maya, buried in the dirt. That was when Simone changed. Her face went blank. Her hands trembled. The confident, outgoing girl everyone thought they knew was gone. And then, almost in a whisper, she said it. "I didn't mean to." The confession spilled out in pieces. She had invited Maya over that night, just like always, but there was no movie night, there was no laughter. There was an argument, a final confrontation about their friendship, about Maya moving on, about Simone feeling like she was being abandoned. Maya had tried to leave, but Simone wouldn't let her. She convinced Maya to get in her car, promising to talk things through. But instead of taking her home, she drove in the opposite direction, out past the quiet streets, past the neighborhoods, past the safety of familiar places, until she reached the woods. There, under the cover of darkness, in a moment of uncontrollable rage, she attacked. Maya never stood a chance. And once it was over, Simone panicked. She dragged Maya's body through the brush, dug a shallow grave with her bare hands, and covered the evidence of what she had done. Then she went home. She cleaned up, she practiced her story, and the next morning, she cried with Maya's family. The town of Fairview was left shattered. Maya's family, her friends, her teachers, everyone who had loved her, were left with a wound that would never truly heal. A betrayal so deep, so unfathomable, that it left them questioning everything. How could someone do this? How could a best friend become a killer? There were no answers that could ever bring Maya back. No justice could ever undo the pain. But one thing was clear. The girl who once stood by Maya's side, who laughed with her, who called her a sister, had been the one to take everything away. And Fairview would never be the same again. The tragic end of Maya Richardson is a harsh reminder that not all friendships are as they appear. The bonds we trust the most, the ones we think will last forever, can often be the ones that betray us in the most unimaginable ways. Simone Harris, once Maya's closest confidant, shattered the illusion of a bond built on love and loyalty, revealing the shocking reality that sometimes the greatest danger lies closest to home. In the end, it wasn't a stranger who took Maya's life. It was the person who was supposed to protect her, the one she laughed with, the one she shared her hopes and dreams with. It was the person who, in the blink of an eye, turned that trust into a weapon. This case leaves us with more questions than answers. What could have driven Simone to such a point? Was there a moment where this tragedy could have been stopped? A clue that could have changed everything? And how many other friendships hide the same kind of dark potential, only waiting for the right spark to ignite them? What do you think? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Was there something hidden in the years of their friendship that we missed, something that pointed to Simone's growing resentment? Or was it all a perfect storm of jealousy, rage, and betrayal? We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments below. Was this a case of friendship gone wrong? Or was there something far deeper lurking in the shadows of their relationship? If you're as captivated by these stories as we are, don't forget to like and subscribe. We have many more in-depth true crime stories on the way. Cases that will uncover the darkest corners of human nature. Cases that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the people around you. Stay tuned. Because the truth isn't always what it seems. Remember, stay safe, trust your instincts, and never forget, true crime is closer than you think.